The apartment was small, barely enough for 2 people, but it held the kind of warmth that only love could build. Leo, just 12, had learned early how to be quiet, how to take up less space, and how to read his mother's moods like chapters in a worn-out book. He wasn't loud, wasn't flashy, but when he was alone, he sang. That's when his world opened up. He'd found the old tape recorder buried in a milk crate full of dusty cassettes last winter. It crackled when it played, and the buttons stuck, but it worked, mostly. Maria had once used it to record herself singing, back when dreams were more than survival. Now it was Leo's turn. Late at night, after his mother had gone to bed, he'd press record, close his eyes and let the music pour out, soft and trembling but honest. He never let anyone hear it, not even Maria. Maria cleaned houses, offices, even a church when they needed help. Her hands were always red and cracked. She'd leave before sunrise and come back just before dinner, smelling like bleach and old dust. But she never complained, not once. Leo admired that about her. He'd fold laundry, sweep the floors, and pack their meager dinners into reused takeout containers without being asked. He knew they didn't have much, but it didn't matter. As long as they had each other, it was enough. At least, it used to be. Recently, Maria had started coughing more. It was dry and raspy at first, but then came the fatigue, her body moving slower, her eyes dimmer. She brushed it off, told Leo it was just a cold or the weather, nothing serious. But Leo wasn't stupid. He'd seen her leaning against the kitchen counter a little too long, pressing her palm to her chest like she was trying to catch her breath. He asked her once, just once, if she was okay. She'd smiled, kissed his forehead and said, "I'm fine, baby, just tired. You don't worry about me, all right?" So he didn't, not out loud. But when the lights were out and the silence felt too heavy, Leo would lie in bed staring at the ceiling, clinging to the sound of her breathing in the next room, just in case it ever stopped. It happened on a Thursday, one of those grey, forgettable days that suddenly burns itself into your memory forever. Maria was cleaning the lobby of a downtown office building, just like she did every week. No warning, no cry for help, just the clatter of her mop hitting the marble floor, followed by her body crumpling beside it. The security guard called 911. By the time Leo arrived at the hospital, they already had her hooked up to wires and tubes, her face pale against the hospital sheets. He sat stiffly in the chair beside her, clutching her hand like it was the last thing keeping her anchored to the world. When the doctor finally pulled him aside, Leo stood taller than he felt. He listened carefully, pretending he was older, braver, until the words hit like cold water to the chest. Heart failure, advanced, surgery required, tens of thousands of dollars. He blinked like maybe he'd heard it wrong. "But we don't have that kind of money," Leo said quietly, almost to himself. The doctor's face was kind but firm. "Without the surgery, your mother won't survive. I'm sorry, we'll keep her stable for now, but you don't have much time." Leo returned to her bedside, numb. She was asleep, or maybe just pretending to be. He wanted to scream, but no one would hear it. What was a 12-year-old supposed to do? Beg strangers? Sell toys he didn't even have? But then something in his chest sparked like a whisper. He couldn't fix her, but maybe, just maybe, he could save her. He stared at her face and made a quiet promise. "I'm going to get the money, Mom, no matter what it takes." And for the first time, Leo didn't feel like a boy. He felt like a soldier. The flyer fluttered across the sidewalk like it had been sent by fate itself. Leo almost didn't notice it, caught between school and a hospital visit, his thoughts thick with worry. But something made him stop. He picked it up. "Star Search Talent Show, $10,000 grand prize." $10,000. His heart skipped. That was exactly what the doctor said his mother needed. He scanned the rest. Live auditions open to all ages 3 weeks away. Celebrities, talent scouts, big stage, big chance. Leo stared at it like it might vanish if he blinked. Was it even real? He could barely believe it. But there it was, bold and bright, promising the kind of miracle money he needed. At first, doubt crushed him. He'd never sung in front of anyone, not even his mom. What if they laughed? What if he froze? But fear didn't matter anymore. She was running out of time. If this was their shot, he had to take it. He signed up the next day using a borrowed library computer. He didn't tell Maria. She'd never let him do it, not with her in the hospital. She'd tell him to focus on school, to stay safe. But Leo had already decided this wasn't about being safe. It was about saving her. Every night after visiting hours, he practiced in the alley behind their building. Echoes of his voice rose between the brick walls, just like his mom's used to when she'd sing him to sleep. She had dreams once, he remembered. She'd wanted to perform on stage, record an album. Leo had seen the pictures, young Maria holding a mic, eyes full of light. That light never left her. It lived in Leo now. Music ran in their blood, and he was going to let the world hear it. Daniel Cole didn't believe in fairy tales, especially the ones dressed up as talent show sob stories. He'd been in the industry too long, seen too many people cry on cue, sing off key, and beg for attention masked as authenticity. He'd built his empire on ruthlessness and rhythm, not sentiment. That's what made him one of the most successful music producers in the business. So when his agent called about judging a local talent show, Daniel laughed. "Why would I waste my time on amateurs?" "Because your image needs softening," his agent had replied. "You're trending cold." Cold. That was the word people liked to throw at him. Detached, calculated. But he didn't care. Emotion got in the way. Connections got messy. He knew that better than anyone. Especially when it came to Maria. She used to sing for him, back when neither of them had anything. Her voice had that ache in it, real, raw, unforgettable. But he had dreams, and those dreams didn't leave room for anything or anyone. He'd walked away, chasing success. He never looked back. Well, mostly. Sometimes, on long nights in the studio, when the lights were low and the booth was empty, he'd think about her, wonder what became of her. But he'd always push it down. The past didn't pay the bills. Now he was flying into town for a weekend gig on a show that promised the next big thing. It was just PR, a handshake and a soundbite. Smile for the cameras, roll your eyes at the off-pitch teens, and maybe discover one marketable gem. That was the plan. What he didn't know, what he couldn't know, was that one of those hopeful voices waiting backstage was his son, and that the past he buried was about to come roaring back. Leo stood outside the grand auditorium, gripping the strap of his frayed backpack like it was armor. His shirt was a size too big, tucked sloppily into pants that had seen too many washes. His sneakers, taped at the toes, squeaked with every step. But his eyes were steady, focused, purposeful. Inside, the lobby buzzed with energy. Kids his age, some younger, most older, laughed with their parents, posed for selfies with stylists, warmed up their voices with vocal coaches. One girl had a full glam squad, curling her hair while another adjusted her outfit. Leo kept to the side, invisible. No one noticed the boy in the oversized clothes. That was fine. Let them underestimate him. He found a quiet corner backstage, pulled out the ancient tape recorder, and slipped in a cassette labeled Mom, 1998. Her voice poured through the cheap headphones, soft, clear, full of life. It made his hands stop shaking. He'd practiced her lullaby for weeks, on rooftops where only the stars could hear him, in the alley behind their building where the bricks echoed back his courage. A stagehand called his number. It was time. As Leo stepped out under the harsh glare of the spotlight, a few giggles rippled through the crowd. He heard one whisper, "Is he lost?" Another chuckled, "Cute. Hope he doesn't cry." But Leo didn't flinch. He walked to center stage like he belonged there, even if no one else believed it. In the hospital, Maria lay in bed, flipping through channels to distract herself. She paused on the talent show. It was background noise, until a familiar voice made her sit up, her heart racing. Back in the auditorium, the judges barely looked up. Daniel skimmed Leo's bio with disinterest. Another kid, another sad story, probably another off-key performance. "Whenever you're ready," the MC said, voice polite but bored. Leo stepped up to the mic, took a shaky breath and closed his eyes. He wasn't just singing, he was fighting. And the moment his voice filled the room, everything changed. The first note wavered. Leo's voice, soft and uncertain, cracked as it met the microphone. A few people in the crowd exchanged glances. Someone coughed, someone else sighed. But then something shifted. He closed his eyes tighter, shut out the lights, the cameras, the sneers. He pictured his mother, her smile, the sound of her humming as she stirred a pot of soup they barely had enough for, the way she whispered, "We're gonna be okay, baby. We always are." And then he sang. It wasn't polished, it wasn't perfect, but it was real. His voice grew stronger with every line, full of quiet fire and aching truth. The song wasn't flashy or upbeat. It was a story, a confession, a cry. The lyrics traced the silhouette of a mother who gave everything and asked for nothing, who held her child's world together with threadbare hope and bare hands. By the second verse, the audience had gone still. Phones dropped, eyes widened. It was like time paused. The boy they almost laughed off stage had cracked something open, and the entire room leaned in to listen. Across town, in a stark hospital room, Maria's hand flew to her mouth as her heart stuttered. She stared at the screen, disbelieving. That voice, her voice, in a way, coming from her son. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Back at the judges' table, Daniel sat stiff, stunned. He'd stopped reading the boy's file halfway through the second line. Something about the voice. It clawed at memories he thought long buried. The phrasing, the tone, even the eyes. There was a sadness there he recognized, a story that mirrored one he'd left behind. The lyrics hit deeper. She gave me her strength when the world gave her none. She smiled while she bled, and I thought she was strong. I didn't know she was breaking. Daniel's breath caught. A tear slipped down his cheek. He wiped it quickly, angrily. When Leo finished, the silence cracked into thunderous applause. The audience rose, people shouted his name. But Daniel didn't move. He just stared, frozen and haunted. Leo stepped off the stage like he was walking out of a dream. The applause still echoed behind him, but he barely heard it. His throat was raw, his hands trembled, and his heart beat like a drum. He had given everything, every note, every word, every ounce of love he had for his mother, right there in front of hundreds of strangers. Now, the adrenaline was gone, and all he wanted was to breathe. He slipped into the narrow backstage hallway, away from the noise, leaning against the wall to steady himself. A production assistant patted his shoulder and offered him a bottled water. He nodded, barely managing a thanks. Around him, cameras swarmed. Someone asked him to wait for an interview. He just nodded again, too dazed to think. Elsewhere at the judges' table, Daniel couldn't stop staring at the application form that had just landed in his hands. It had been passed down by a producer for reference. He hadn't even asked for it. But there it was, Leo Martinez, 12 years old. And underneath, in the emergency contact box, written in neat, familiar handwriting, Maria Rios. His breath caught in his throat. Maria. It hit him like a punch to the chest. Maria, he whispered, barely audible. The room around him faded. He didn't wait. The chair screeched as he stood up and bolted from the table, ignoring the confused glances from the other judges. Backstage, Leo sat down in front of a camera, too tired to be nervous. A young reporter asked gently, "Why did you enter the talent show, Leo?" He looked up, his voice hoarse but honest. "I just wanted to save my mom. She's sick. She's all I've got. I never knew my dad." Daniel had just reached the curtain when those words hit him like lightning. "I never knew my dad." He stopped cold. Just behind the fabric, he could hear the boy's voice as if it was echoing through time. His voice, Maria's eyes. He stepped out slowly, not caring about the cameras or the crew. Leo turned to leave, rounding the corner, and stopped. Standing just feet away was Daniel, eyes wide, frozen in place. They stared at each other, Daniel opened his mouth to speak. Stay tuned for part 2 by subscribing to my YouTube channel. Don't miss the next chapter in this powerful story.